there's so many great men are sitting on the sideline. There's so many young men that are starving for attention and adoration, and that's paramount to stopping the academic and economic fall. You just got to want to get involved. I personally believe if you have a desire to get involved, opportunity will find you. I don't care where it's at, but you got to want to be bothered. I mean, when you go to get a haircut, I don't know if you're getting a haircut, but if you but,
hey, I'm blacking. January 1st, y'all will see this gone.
So, I mean, there used to be a time where you go to the neighborhood barbershop. It was an opportunity to get groomed, not just in the physical sense, but, they educate you on fashion, politics, sports, music, faith. And so, again, you got to just want to get involved.
Absolutely.
What's going on, y'all? It is the Risk Takers. We are back again. This is first of the year, right? First episode of the year. So welcome.
Might be two.
Maybe two. Well, the other one's special, right?
The other one is special.
This we back on regular schedule with this one, and this is really special for me. Of course, I'm your host, Chase. I got my brother.
Yes, sir. Soloso.
And man, I'm gonna try to make this quick, this dialogue quick. But this man sitting here in between us is so vital to my life and so vital to the resurgence of my life. When he found me, I was in a bad space for sure. You know what I'm saying? Lacking belief, lacking faith. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that knows that. And in the center is somebody I call a mentor, somebody I call a father, pops. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm honored to be here. For those of you that don't know, my name is Jerry Bishop. I'm happy to be a pastor, husband, father, grandfather, coach, just all-around brother to a lot of brothers in town. And the sentiments that you shared about me are very equal. I love you. We got a whole lot of years track record together, so I'm excited about your progress. I'm excited about my new brother here, and I'm looking forward to 2026 on Vision.
On Vision. Go ahead, speak. Just start right there. On Vision. Talk to us about it.
Well, one of the main speaking engagements that keeps me traveling is the advocacy that men, because that's what we are as men, need a vision for their life. And unfortunately, too many young men morph into older men where they have no vision, no plan. And, what we did for New Year's Eve is we had everybody 2 weeks prior in the congregation on a Sunday morning, they were given a note card. Yep. And given at least a 10-day heads up, hey, start writing your vision for 2026. And, there's a scriptural background for that. And the prophet Habakkuk got a revelation from God, said, hey, write the vision, make it plain, then wait on it.
And even though it tarries.
If it tarries, it will come to pass. And so it's with that vision that, you and I always have something to work on. Being lost, being despondent is not lost on me, considering I know what life was until one time a college professor introduced to me, and I think my junior year of undergraduate work, said, hey, man, you're either going to have a vision or you're going to be an educated fool. And at the time, I had no vision. I didn't know what I was going to do with life. And he introduced me to that note card, and he says, this note card is going to save your life. That note card, through a conversion of my faith, saved my life. And I can honestly say that for now 39 years, I've been working off a note card. Of course, every year I start a new note card, but it's in the vision. And everything that he said in Habakkuk chapter 2 has come to pass. But also, Proverbs 29:18, where there's no vision, the people perish. So it's paramount to our success that we have to write the vision.
Incredible. Tell us some of those things that came from the vision along the way, the building we're in, speak about that a little bit, and other things that you've brought to life.
Prior to being a full-time pastor, I was kind of minding my own business, enjoying life as a Fortune 50 corporate executive, which in itself is a very supernatural story for me, considering, I'm the son of an alcoholic drug addict who died in front of me. My father later found me at about 15 and a half years old. But enjoying the spoils and the splendor of this Fortune 50 company, asleep one night, 1995, and about 2 o'clock in the morning, the Lord told me to get up from a very deep sleep and get up to write my life quest, exactly how the Lord spelled it out to me. Life quest means life mission. So there I was in May of 1995, waking at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up and got my then 20-pound Hewlett-Packard laptop. That's about how much they weighed back then. And I opened it up. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I began to write what is our current mission statement verbatim, if you see it on the wall here at the church. And since May of 1995, we've been working in the vision. And, of course, the Lord gives you a lot of edits and increases, but here we are 39 years later through the help of the Lord and many people. We have a thriving campus here on the corner of Neeland and Fisk. As you know, we launched a charter school here with our corporate partner in August of 2023, K through 5. Very supernatural, and I know that it works. I know that the vision is appointed by the Lord, and so, you stick with what works. Harlan Sanders stuck with frying chicken. I stick with vision. I stick with ministry. That's all I know that works. The Lord has been good, and a lot of people have helped us get here, but at the same time, now the ministry helps a lot of people.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you was continuing.
No, I thought I was waiting for you to jump.
Oh, my bad.
good.
So I do want to say congratulations for being everything that you are. We did talk over the summertime when I was dealing with some ups and downs in my mental health and my mental space, and overall exploring consciousness and spirituality. So I do want to say thank you for that. On camera, I would say Jerry is a great man. He has built a great thing right here, and his mission statement and everything that he stands for is nothing less than great.
I appreciate it, but it's been a long journey.
Absolutely. Also, you are a very prominent person in the community of Grand Rapids. I feel like everywhere I look, if anything going on that's supporting Jerry Bishop's not too far behind, whether it's donating to a cause or supporting, people at the church, people at the community. For people at home who want to help change the community, what are some of the things that you implement in your daily life to be that person?
First of all, you got to have a desire to give back. I mean, I'm probably from the last generation of people that are trained to give back. I am, if you look at my age peers were helped by so many people. In that segment of life, achievement was mandatory. They made you go to school. They made you go to practice. They made you wear clean clothes, get a haircut, shine your shoes. And so really that is simply a harvest of the seed that was planted in me. But there's a plethora of ways to get involved. I mean, certainly volunteering at any local elementary, middle school, high school is paramount, because too many young boys of color do not see men of color in any other environment other than failure or law enforcement, or in an unapproachable situation like professional sports. They watch them on television or see videos or they're on social media. But being a present impact pillar, you could just show up. You can go to the gym. As an example, I was sitting in a group chat recently, and there are 32 former high school basketball head coaches this year that are not coaching somewhere in West Michigan. So look at the intellectual properties. There's so many great men are sitting on the sideline. There's so many young men that are starving for attention and adoration, and that's paramount to stopping the academic and economic fall. You just got to want to get involved. I personally believe if you have a desire to get involved, opportunity will find you. I don't care where it's at, but you got to want to be bothered. I mean, when you go to get a haircut, I don't know if you're getting a haircut, but
hey, I'm blacking. January 1st, y'all will see this gone.
So, there used to be a time where you go to the neighborhood barbershop. It was an opportunity to get groomed, not just in the physical sense, but, they educate you on fashion, politics, sports, music, faith. And so, again, you got to just want to get involved.
Absolutely.
Where do you feel like that fell off at?
Well, I will say that I would say that many people use this as a scapegoat era, but I don't. I believe that the crack era absolutely twofold. The crack era really hindered a significant amount of academic and economic achievement, legal economic achievement. It devastated and decimated families. But at the same time, unfortunately, a lot of great leaders got old and died. But the fallout from that is not every mentor has followed in the admonition of their mentors, every mentee rather. A lot of guys got great training by great men, and they're just simply not doing anything. Unfortunately, a lot of success can make you selfish, where, somebody donated their time to make you hit a curveball better, hit a free throw, run a better route, throw a better pass, help you with your musical skills, your technology, and how you build music. And now that you're prospering, have an education, you can conjugate verbs to be, you're making more than poverty wages. Achievement can make you a little lazy and a little selfish with your time. I am from an era where these guys worked full-time jobs. They coached full-time. They still had wives and family. They took away from their families and they gave to us kids. And I think that selfishness, the crack era, and our leaders dying. Every time a community leader dies, our community gets weaker. And as I share with you all the time, your vision has to have a component of helping other people, not just getting fat economically.
Absolutely, I agree with that tenfold. Where do you feel like the youth goes wrong these days? I know it's a big problem with the parents in the household, but do you think any of that accountability falls back on the youth or the next generation to be?
Well, I think that there's definitely been a fall off in the value system of parenting. And it's really not what I think. You can statistically look this up. If you really want to check the efficacy of my statement, just go and observe the drop-off period when children are getting dropped off at any local, public, or private elementary, middle school, high school, and you find out, you look at what they're coming from every day. At the same time, there's been an overindulgence in inappropriate behavior by way of social media. I'll share with this on Sunday morning. The level of acceptable inappropriate behavior now is fashionable. We have a culture of chaos, a culture of murder, a culture of violence, a culture of looking bad. I mean, you look at our youth right now, they're unashamed to come out of the house wrinkled, hair uncombed, unshaved, unbathed, because they use terms like, I'm on my grind. And I think that we've allowed them to program themselves into failure by not being a voice. Again, in an era gone by, every adult was a voice. They would get you together with no fear, and you didn't swear in front of them. And they'd tell you, hey, tuck your shirt in, shine your shoes. Now, too many of us are simply riding by our futures. Every time I'm in a classroom setting, I never look at them as underperforming assets. I look at these young men as underinvested assets. Mm-hmm. And I was just on a podcast recently where I shared with the audience, it was about urban economics, and I shared that the most undercapitalized corporations in America are young African-American males. Because you got to look at it, they are a commerce center unto themselves, but they're underinvested, they're underaffirmed, very little encouragement. And through the lack of encouragement, all encouragement is not going to be warm fuzzies.
Absolutely.
I mean, you sat with me on the bus, and I'm certainly not the end-all, be-all to coaching or pastoring, but while we sat on the boat, I think that men ought to have the latitude to be men. That's not a sexist statement. It's not a misogynistic statement, but, I'm not coaching and mentoring with just warm fuzzies. I don't parent like that. And I have the gambit of children. I have girls and boys. I have a mixture of boys and girls of grandchildren. And, certainly I got a lot of flaws in my game, but I'm really just regurgitating a lot of what's been put in me.
To go right there, I was just going to say, because, when me and him first got connected, I wasn't used to his level of coaching at all. And we have had our moments. We have not always seen eye to eye. We still don't see eye to eye. We're both very strong, opinionated men, as he said. And, we are the risk takers. And the thing I highlight for you about being a risk taker is you do not waver whatsoever. Like when he has his mind made, this is what it is. Like that's it. There is no wavering, and then that is the one thing. You know, people talk about you.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've always said, look, you say whatever you want to about that man. You have to respect that this man lives unapologetically his belief, his faith, and he does not change for nobody because that is his faith, and I love that about you, and I appreciate that. But on that note, where does that, I guess that urge, that courage to lead in that manner, where does that come from?
Well, it's definitely a combination of things. I'm like many of my age peers and some of you even. I'm a survivor. I've never been to a combat zone, but I'm a survivor of urban warfare. I think that the longer that you're out in the chaos, you develop some resilience, you develop a hardness I don't think that you need to apologize for the advocacy of what's right. I think you need to, first of all, you got to find a foundation. You can't find a foundation in foolishness. You got to find a foundation in what works. I mean, if you're a basketball coach, universally the pick and roll works. You can't argue that. It's effective. It's gone. One generation stopped using it. The points went down. You figure out middle 2000s, everybody's drafting a point guard that only can run the pick and roll. I think that you need to, once you develop a foundation that's right, it's morally right and works right, regardless of your faith. You could be a Hindu, you could be a Muslim, you could be a Jew, but there are some foundational things that you got to stick with. You have to have some non-negotiables. And I think that now we give too many people the latitude to do whatever they say. And your generation is great for saying, well, I'm just speaking my truth. Your truth may actually be a lie. And that whole statement is a psychological term that came around like the mid 70s. Speak your truth. Well, my lie would be I'm 6'9" and I'm an NBA 2 guy. That's my truth. But I'm not. I'm barely now 6'2" because I've aged. I'm nowhere near the caliber of an NBA player, so that's not my truth. But I think that the longer you allow somebody to endeavor in failure, they believe it's the truth. Mm-hmm. I mean, they believe it's the truth. And that's so, real. As an example, I got a favorite saying. I love you. You're one of my sons. And I have to tell my children to have my DNA, like yourself. We are not friends. We're not peers. We're not peers. I love you. But we're not peers. Certain things you can't say and do around me. But I'm not going to say and do certain things around you. But we have to go back to, you have to dial it back to maybe your grandparents. And certainly I'm not as old as your grandparents, but they were unapologetic about what was right. Be home at 6 o'clock. Be on time for dinner. That kind of thing. And so I think once you find a faith algorithm, you stay in it because you begin to see the residual harvest of what works. People can argue about LeBron James. Statistically, LeBron James, whether you like him or not, is a winner.
Yes.
And he's going to go out, statistically, arguably the best basketball player to ever live. But watch this. He developed some non-negotiables. He worked on his body. He worked on his game. He worked on his circle, his social circle. Mm-hmm. Okay. He worked on his philanthropy. Mm-hmm. So he's non-apologetic. And here's the thing. I think that we need to get into a realm and stay there and try to encourage you to grow. It is okay to be in your lane. Colonel Sanders didn't apologize for chicken. Coke don't apologize for Coke. But people will make you apologize for being in a realm that's working for you. Now, if it's endangering the community, that's some foolishness. If it's endangering to your health, your freedom, that's some foolishness.
Absolutely.
So certainly, yeah, I'm not immune to some of the criticism I get, but I think that, I love by the way, I've always wanted to tell you this. I love the title of your show. Okay, because it takes a lot of faith to be a risk taker. And 100%. As an example, I left a high six-figure job to go to zero income to be in full-time ministry. You go from a six-figure job to $225 a week with children to pay for. You're taking a risk. You're taking a risk.
Yes.
And so I want to. I oftentimes want to commend you for that. There's a whole different level of confidence that you have, that risk takers have, that the rest of society doesn't have. Because you could wake up the next day and like, man, I took a risk and it paid off. But watch this: even if you swing and miss, the fact that you swung, or you took the last shot. If you throw it to me for the last shot, I'm not passing it.
Right. It ain't coming back.
It's not coming back because I feel very comfortable in taking the shot. And parenting is a risk. Marriage is a risk. Pastoring, being an entrepreneur, it's a risk. But some risks are bolstered through faith and preparation. And others, you're just taking a risk because you're a fool.
Calculated risk is the only thing we're going for 2026 and so on and so forth. Taking a risk now. Speaking on the whole risk-taking thing, this summer, a little story in here when Jerry invited us on a boat. You the first person to have a first black person to have your boat docked at where?
At Reed's Lake, behind Roses.
Amazing.
It's
but
amazing.
It felt, him bringing that up felt pretty cool when he was like, you got time to come on a boat tomorrow? And I was like, I went home and told my wife, I was like, yeah, Jerry asked me to go on a boat. I told him, I do got time tomorrow. I would say taking a risk is something that's very important. I think that all humans should do. Even if you do miss that last shot or you do miss that swing, you can sleep peacefully into the afterlife knowing that I did everything I could do in my power to change my future, my family future, community future, and so on and so forth. I do commend you on being a risk taker. And, I don't know, that conversation on the boat really changed a couple of things in here.
It was a great time for me too, bro.
Great time,
all of us
great
were
time.
sitting out there, we're boating. It was a good time.
Absolutely.
But about the boat, see, it's not just about you taking a risk. People will take risks on you.
100%.
Okay, now as an example, the owner of the yacht club took a risk on me to give me a space that hadn't been available for 22 years. Okay, but when somebody takes a risk on you, you reciprocate that by doing the right thing.
All right.
My calling away from corporate America, it was just divine timing, but somebody took a risk on me to give me a full, is in a $200 a week job.
Right.
I thought I was in the NBA. I had reached the pinnacle. That's where I wanted to be. But when people take a risk on you, you just don't flounder that. Right. You have to honor that. In marriage, my wife took a risk on me. I took a risk on her that would be my forever partner, and my wife, and vice versa. And I have to reciprocate the risk she took. Mm-hmm. But now watch this. Although we're risk takers, I am very adverse to risk. It's one thing, I watch your podcast, I tell you some of the content I don't get down with, and I'm okay with that. Yep. Some of the content is counterproductive to society because it's just normalized chaos. Yeah. But here's the thing. If you could condition people to taking calculated risks, see, it's one thing to get somewhere. Everybody, I'm adverse to this tag. Everybody wants to, they got to get the bag. Okay, everybody now is pushing to get the bag, get in their bag, but a lot of people are not being told how to maintain the bag.
That is so true.
So I'm adverse to risk. Trust me, the more mature you get age-wise, and your children grow, and you accumulate some things, and your name gets out there, obviously, whether you see it yet, you are media professionals. And so the more that you have public notoriety, the easier it is to take a slip and fall. One bad comment, one bad guess, one bad agreement, one bad sponsor, your whole world can come to a fall. I mean, as an example, I recognize humbly that every Sunday morning, I'm only one bad clip away from being canceled. Nicki Minaj found that out the hard way.
100%.
I don't know what her payout is, but 10 million followers lost. I don't think that she understood the risk she was taking. You can't follow everything and publicly affirm everything. Okay. I tell you that all the time in a lot of intimate settings when we're at coffee and dinner. I'm like, hey, man, you got to check your circle. And now the calculated risk is I love everybody. I don't agree with everything. I love everybody. I'm not affirming all your behavior. But my risk is I'm not going everywhere. I'm not doing everything that the society does because I don't want to start over. I have people that depend on me. So where I was a huge risk taker, 25 years ago, you know the story. I developed 55 houses. I had a financial risk. I had 6 figures in mortgages that my name was on. I had to make good with it. You got to be now. I wouldn't do that. Now at this stage, I did it then. But again, you live, you learn, you surround yourself with good people. I am very fortunate. I'm not that smart of a guy. I'm not very intelligent. I have caught more than I've been taught. When you surround yourself with good people, their gifts emanate and just simply fall on your life.
Man, like it's crazy. Like you were just talking, it just reminded me of my grandfather for a second. That just really hit me. Like, that's really hit me.
It's okay.
That's crazy.
And funny you mentioned your grandfather. When I moved here to go to college, Dean Don Williams, that's what we knew him as. Way before I knew who Brendan Williams wasn't even thought of yet.
Right.
But Dean Don Williams was the man. And we looked up to him. He was a college dean. He's a black dean at Grand Valley. And then the person that replaced him at Job Corps, Gerald Dawkins, is an icon. He's now with the Lord. So much, he impressed me so much, we named the school after Gerald Dawkins.
I didn't know.
And so, you put all these pieces together, and you got a lot of people taking risks on you. You're here. You're only alive because your mother or father took a risk to have an encounter with somebody and produced you. You got to think about that.
Absolutely. Being young and coming up in life, you do speak about having a sober life, and putting a lot of importance in your circle can also influence, can continue in that timeline. How would you say, people should kind of weed out the bad people and kind of, give them that sweet music of, we got to go our separate ways. I got places I want to go, things to do.
First of all, you really have to understand it's not just a metaphor, but it's true. Some people can't go where you're going.
100%.
And it's okay to outgrow some people because the people are either going to grow up with you and go up with you or you got to go. It's either grow or go. I've shed a lot of people over the years that I'm actually still friends with. We just don't have a real intimate relationship. Simply because you have to be willing to stand firm. You're not judging anybody. But like with Nehemiah in the book of Nehemiah was rebuilding the wall. He gave him tremendous responsibility. And some of his associates, Sanballat, Tobias, and Geshem, they were a little jealous as the more higher he got, the more they became a distraction. You ought to go read the story. Most people are not distracted by their friends when they're at the ground level, or maybe even a few feet off the ground. But the higher you get and the more detailed into your calling, your purpose, your vision, that's some people in your circle that maybe are not working as hard as you, committed, living in faith, don't have a vision. You ever figure out that people don't have a vision, got a lot of time on their hands?
Absolutely.
And so one day, they sent hey, we want to come down, let's have a meeting. And Nehemiah just stood firm on the conviction and the vision of rebuilding the wall to say, I'm busy, I'm doing a great work, and I can't come down. Now, it takes a lot of conviction to maintain where you're at, and non-apologetically. I am very focused in what I do. I'm not better than anybody else. I have a plethora of flaws like everybody else. But one flaw that I don't have is a lack of commitment. But I had to learn that acumen. A lot of failure, a lot of incompleteness, but a lot of encouragement from other people that were where I wanted to be. Say, hey man, stay Stay focused. But then, no pun intended, you said weed out some people. You talked about a sober life. One of the most challenging thing to the millennial audiences now, they live in a culture of legalized addiction, not understanding that the mental health system is about to break because of the unprecedented level of cases tied to cannabis abuse. And you can smoke your life away, but not realize the significant levels of mental health endangerment.
Absolutely.
I share with you all the time, the number of heart failures linked to cannabis abuse, psychosis, but again, it's a legalized form of chaos. And so I've never seen a culture. It's even more prevalent now than it was in the crack era. Crack was the drug of choice then. A little bit of weed. My era, I smoked a lot of weed in college, but we weren't smoking the same cannabis. Okay, then the sobriety piece. If a person knew the carcinogens that was in one shot glass of liquor, and how the American Medical Association links every major cancer to the carcinogens in alcohol, I'm grateful just to be alive, considering that I spent the 60 months that I experienced in undergrad never sober.
Drinking like a fish.
I drank every day. I got high every day. I lived out of a Nike shoebox with substance. And now on New Year's Eve, I celebrated 39 years of total sobriety. And I'm not better than anybody else. I just realized, man, this is what I'm doing with my life. But then we were such a poor example to your generation. We gave birth to your level of intoxication, and you took it to a whole different level. And until a person is sober, they can't look back and see what they did to themselves. I obviously I do a lot of quasi-clinical work, and my advocacy's always sobriety. Got to be sober, man. It affects your vision. It affects your tenacity. It affects your perseverance. It affects your level of encouragement. Depression is out of control. And I get it, though. Some are medicating. Some are getting high socially because they're really masking a bunch of trauma.
Absolutely.
And I know we don't have a lot of time. I'd love to come back, maybe unpack the trauma piece of that.
Yes,
but
definitely.
For every 8 young men that are struggling out of 10, they're dealing with trauma. And so trauma's best friend is the Medicaid. Failure's cousin is over-medication.
Absolutely. Are we looking on time?
Yeah, he got to go.
Gotcha. Any closing words you'd like to leave the people with until we get you on here next time?
Man, what I really want to encourage you, it's early enough in the year. I'll invest in you if you invest in yourself. Come get a 3x5 note card or buy one for yourself. And take yourself out somewhere for about 30, 45 minutes and write your vision for 2026. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be scholarly. It doesn't have to be a paper. It doesn't have to be a dissertation. It doesn't have to be a thesis. It's your vision. What do you want God to do for your life in 2026? I dare you to write it down, focus on it, go to it every day, develop a habit. Let me tell you, you will minimize wasting time. You will maximize performance. And by June, some of those seeds are going to start propping up. I want to say thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Appreciate
I get a chance to
it.
come back.
No,
man.
we're going to finish
Absolutely.
this.
Love you, son.
You know I love you.
Yeah.
And that's out. Another episode of The Risk Takers with Jerry Bishop, the man himself. It's your boy Oso.
Chase.
Yes, sir, and we out.